Hey folks, thank you again for joining us for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. So today we are on 336, that is the Reflection 336, and we have a brand new book for you. But this book has also a two-part reflection.
It does, yeah. It's another really good book, man. I got on a roll with some of these in a row. This is the dream world, dude. This is why I read
When
these
the
books, you know?
stars
Yeah,
are
yeah.
aligned, right? Books after books have multiple reflections. That means that Chris
There's
is hitting the jackpot.
there's nothing worse than, a string of meh books in a row.
A
it's like
mere
you're hitting
book
the
that
slot
has like
machine.
48 hours long kind of book,
Oh God.
one after
Oh,
that. It's like,
the
uh,
team of rivals one that I did, man,
uh,
God, the about the Lincoln,
the memoir,
yeah, no, about Lincoln, this team of rivals, his cabinet
his cabinet,
members.
right?
God, that was the longest book I've ever read. It was 48 hours. People were like on an audiobook, and people were like, oh, this book's incredible. It's like you'll learn so many leadership lessons from it. And I was like, well, I mean, the whole time I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, I mean, it was like five.
These reviews come from good, good advertisement, good propaganda, right? I mean, and they sell, even though when they, I don't get it. It's just like, how there's a folklore about the king walking down the street with naked, not everybody say, hey, it's beautiful gowns, whatever, right?
Right,
This is it. Like everybody say, this is wonderful book. This is wonderful book. Like, because somebody told you, hey, you're stupid
right.
if you can't see the beautiful gown, right? Saying, I
Yeah,
must be stupid, right?
like
This is what I feel like. Hey, talking about the Patagonia book.
the Patagonia book, or like Tale of Two Cities,
Uh,
and like you read the stuff they make you read, Ivanhoe, whatever else, Of Mice and Men, and you're like, I am bored out of my mind. Like, this is
it's like,
I
what
actually
the fuck are you trying to tell you?
I I swear to you, I slogged through every one of those books in high school, and I think I bought the Cliff's Notes. Education sucks. This is why we're trying to build a Montessori workplace with Clubany. Is precisely this. Like, why do you make people read books they don't want to read? Like, just say read what you want to read. This is reading class or whatever the hell it is. Read what you want and then talk about it. You know what I
What
mean?
does
Or
has to know about Of Mice and Men? What does
why?
everyone has to know the Canterbury Tale? I don't care about like the Tale of Two Cities. I don't.
Right.
To
No
me,
one cares.
I went through high school and I had to do something for the Tale of Two Cities, and I have no idea what that book is about.
I still don't know what it was about. I remember it had something to do with
I don't think I
France.
ever read it.
I know I actually read that book, and I don't
I
remember a
probably
single thing
didn't
of it.
read it. I probably just like copy some Cliff Note thing. No, I just copy whatever in Cliff Note and submitted it.
Do you know the only thing I remember about Ivanhoe, the book Ivanhoe?
No, I don't know
Are
what that is.
it was one of those classic literature books that, for whatever reason, my senior English teacher made us read it. I read the whole book, but the only thing I remember about Ivanhoe was our teacher. She was this old lady that was kind of bonkers a little bit, like kind of almost hippie-ish, and she would come in and she would say, Ivanhoe. And then there's two problems with that. Number one, it makes you hate reading. It makes you think that's what reading is and learning is. It's like, oh, I have to read this garbage, so I'm gonna go cheat. I'm gonna go get the Cliff's Notes and, like,
It's like
whatever.
PTSD
It is.
of the miniature version. It's like, hey, you are so completely like have a bad experience with reading something, and you associate reading and learning
And
with torture. The thing that prevents you from like learning things you like. Hey, I can get past. I can open a single book because every time I
right.
see a book, I run away.
I hate
So
it.
the right content, the right information, never got a chance after you get this mini PTSD.
No, it's so true. Like, for me now, on the opposite side, on this journey, like when Amelia and I pick a book every single day, it's like we rolled it's like a slot machine. We're like, we pull the lever and we're like, was it going to be good? Is it going to be good? And we're like, it was okay, but that's all right. We learned something and we'll move on, right? Then we pull a lever again.
Birds where you hit jackpot.
Great, man, Ron, like, this is awesome. It's like you're learning really great, tons of great books, and you're like, man, I'm learning so much. This is exciting. And it makes you just want to read more and more and more, right? You just want to go pull the lever again, versus the opposite is like exactly what we're talking about. It makes you want to, like, not pull the lever ever again. You're like have literal PTSD. Last time you pulled the lever, you got shocked, and then you're like, oh, do I want to pull the lever again? And then you get shocked again. And you're like, oh, this is horrible. Why do people pull these levers? Like, and then you just stop pulling the lever. You go like, fuck, I'm gonna go somewhere else. This is the problem with education. Just let them read what they want to read. Let people work on what they want to work on. This is exactly what we talk about with Clubany all the time.
Yeah, and this is the way that I teach people or students of mine that wants to know how to learn how to program. I say, I'm not going to teach you anything basic, even if you know nothing. I don't want to teach anything. You say, what do you want to build? Let's say you want to build a website, you want to build an app. Okay, start with that. Okay, what do you need? Right? What do you need to make this? So basically, they say, well, I have something I really want. Right? I see it. Now go back and say, okay, what do you need to know? What does this mean? So they learn the basic, but they need only learn the thing they need to complete that task. Right? And that keeps them engaged. But if you say, hey, okay, I'm going to give you like 40 hours of lecture of the basic, this is the CPU, this is peripheral, and this is how the protocol works. It's like, I can't even tell you what a protocol does. I say, hey, protocol is just rules. I don't know why, but people create rules and they say, hey, this is the rules. But that is going to go way over their head. So they will basically quit. The majority of them are going to quit and say, hey, programming is not for me. So
I agree. I mean, I'm 1,000%. I'm about ready to try to learn how to play the piano down there. I don't know if you can see it. Where's it at? Yeah, I'm about ready to try to learn how to, my monthly challenge to play the piano. And my strategy is exactly like what you just said. I set a goal to play a particular song. And honestly, like I went to go pick up this piano from my parents' house because I was like, I don't want to buy one. I'll just go grab it out of my dad's office, because I know he has a little piano.
So have you ever played before?
No, I've never played the piano. Like, besides that little thing where you go da 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 dun 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 dun.
Well, at least you know that.
That's the only things I know how to do is roll my knuckles and hit ding ding with your pinky. I mean, I've never tried to play the piano really ever in my life.
And so that's what I'm saying is when you want to learn the piano, don't start with like.
My dad goes, got to learn the scales. He's like, go watch YouTube. And I go, no.
What song do you like?
This is exactly what.
Once I press enough of that, then I would say, okay, makes sense now. So you gotta go back, like track back your step and say, okay, in order for me to play this song, then this is what I need to do. And
I'm going even more in that direction. I picked my wife and I's wedding song that I'm going to try to learn. It's called "Everything" by Michael Bublé. I don't know if you ever heard that song before. It starts off with dun 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 dun. So I've been listening to the song for the past couple days just to get like it stuck in my head a little bit. I'm just gonna try by ear to start to go dun 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 dun. I'm just gonna try to hit keys until I can figure out what the keys are, and just play it. Because I saw all these different like music books for it and like little sheets you could follow. And it was almost like Guitar Hero where you could like, on a keyboard on YouTube, it'll show you hold it for this long and go like this with this particular song. I'm just gonna fucking play the song. Like I know the song, like I know how it sounds in my head. Like I'm just gonna try to make it sound like it sounds in my head on the keys. It's like playing tennis, right? How are you gonna learn how to play tennis? Just try to hit the ball on the other side of the net. That's it. I can teach you how to try to hit a forehand. We can spend all day long on mechanics of a forehand or a serve or blah blah blah. I'm like, ball over the net. What do you think you got to do to hit the ball over the net? Just take it and go like this. Like if that's how you want to swing, then put it over the net. Because if you try to swing like this, it'll just go right into the ground, and that's what you'll learn.
You get immediate feedback, right? Immediate feedback, and you adjust, and that's what engages you. But if you have to, hey, okay, the mechanic, your wrist turns 90 degree. It's like, what the fuck is 90 degree?
Go like this.
Just hit the ball, okay?
And try to get it on the other side of the net, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, exactly.
So for me, playing the piano, it's like just sit down and just go.
You hit the keys, and you hear it, and give me here. Okay, right here. This is right here. This is Okay.
I'm not trying to make this super complicated. So the goal by the end of this month is I hope to be able to play that song, actually play the song. But if I don't really care. I'm just gonna try to hit some keys for 20 minutes a night, and like we'll see what happens. All right, on to the reflection because I got to watch this Pacer game. They're in the NBA regular season in-season tournament going on right now. All right, you ready to? Oh, Jesus Christ! We introduced the book, and I never even introduced the book. All right, so the book is Made to Stick. It's Why Some Ideas Survive and Other Ideas Die by the authors Chip Heath and Dan Heath. This book is exactly like what it sounds like, right? It's just why do some ideas stick and why do some ideas not stick? And they go through their framework and their ideas behind it. And they did a good enough job of making it stick in my head a little bit, because this is one of the ideas that I probably think of the most when I think of this journey. And you and I have talked about this in a long time. It reminds me of that Nassim Taleb quote, anyone can read something, but it takes like a master to write it or something like that. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is that what the quote is? What does he say? Damn it. All right, I'm going to stop this search because anyway, the point is it takes a master to truly understand it, right? And to truly understand something and write it down means you have to simplify it. You have to refine your thoughts and refine your thoughts over and over and over again. This is profoundly simple for me. This is how you make things stick, is you have to make it so simple that anybody can understand it, but it takes a master to figure out how to make it profoundly simple, right? Like how to make it so easy for somebody to understand that they don't even need to think about it. They just go, oh yeah, no, I get it. But it takes so much effort and time to make something and refine something down to the point in time where they can say, oh yeah, I get that. Like, right, with just out of one word you say, right? So the funny thing is about this whole entire journey, ever since the day that Amelia passed away, like we knowingly or unknowingly embarked on a quest together to try to find what life was all about. Our purpose is what we came up with, and our mission, and living a purpose-driven life and a fulfilled life. I'm not going to rehash all the stuff that we talk about regularly about Amelia and my journey together, but here's what we've been through to get to this point in time right now. I'm going to read the current stats. This was written back on February 20th of 2023, so almost 10 months ago now at this point in time, right? So this is the current stats total since this journey began. 3 months, 3 days, 14 hours, and 39 minutes. This isn't just time that I've been on the platform. This is literally time listening to a book. 3 months, 3 days, 14 hours, and 39 minutes. We've spent 3 full months and 3 full days of 24-hour periods of time listening to an audiobook in the past almost 4 years since Amelia's passed away on this journey. You and I have collectively spent probably 1,000 hours talking every single night for the past 3.5 years together. Writing, I've spent over 4 years now writing every single night,
right,
or every single day. And these kind of blog posts and the book, I Can't Imagine initially, right? Like all these things, this is thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of reflecting, learning, and sharing, and reflecting, learning, and sharing, and applying to life, and reflecting, learning, sharing, and applying to life, right? So this is an insane amount of time and effort that has been put into this journey, I guess, this year magical learning adventure. And early on, like I learned a big lesson, which was I was overflowing with ideas that I wanted to share with people, and overflowing with things that I wanted to try to explain to people what was going on, because I couldn't really explain what was happening, how Amelia and I had found each other again and reconnected, and how we were on a purpose-driven path. Like I remember one time I was at one of my best friends. I was the best man at his wedding. He lives in Chicago, so it's like 3.5 hours away. He has 2 young children. I haven't seen him for a couple years, really, because the pandemic, it was hard to get together, obviously. Like he has young children. We were going through with Amelia, so we didn't really see each other. So it was almost a full, like probably 2.5 years since I saw him, since Amelia had passed away. And they came down to Indianapolis, and we caught up one day about halfway through the pandemic, so like maybe in early 2022 or mid 2022, let's just say that. I think it was the summertime last year. And I was sitting at the table with him. This is even 2.5 years after this whole entire journey started, and I'm trying to catch up on life, and I'm trying to explain to him what's been going on ever since Amelia had passed away. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I feel like I have a purpose, and he was like, what's your purpose? And I go, I can't really explain that to you in 2 seconds right now. Like, I don't know how to say that to you. It's a long story, and I'd have to go into it. I tried to explain it, and it just comes out as a rambling mess of words. And you're just like, I don't know. I know what I feel inside, but I can't condense it down in my own head clear enough to be able to share it to you in 2 words, 5 words or less, or a sentence or less, or something like that, for you to be able to understand. So he walks away from that conversation going, well, I think Chris is trying to figure something out, but I don't really understand it. It was not simple, like what I was trying to say to him, right? And you and I have gone through this journey together about Clubany in a lot of ways. We're started out in this big jumbly mess of like, we kind of know what we were trying to get to, but it was this idea in our head, and we're trying to work it out. But like, if somebody were to ask us, what is Clubany, the essence of it, and we were like, well, it's like, a values exchange, and you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I don't, what do you mean it's a values exchange? Well, it's, like it's a ecosystem for purpose-driven human beings. And you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Do you remember this? Like, as we were trying to refine over and over, like what this was, it just, we'd have to explain like, well, you start off with like a quest for character and core values and make sure that it aligns because culture is really important and we're trying to make culture a big part of this whole thing. And then, this and this and this. And oh my God, I remember when I talked to, you remember that dude, Kyle Lacey, that we were trying to like, the guy from Lessonly, and I, talked to him and I was explaining this to him and he was like, well, sounds really interesting. I don't know that I totally understand it. He was like, the one thing I would kind of give you advice on is like, try to simplify that down into something that other people can understand quickly. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. He gave me an hour to talk about this whole thing. And he was like, sounds really intriguing, but I still don't totally understand what you guys are trying to do, and I'm like, well, that's fair, right? Because that's the job to make something stick, right? Is it's got to be profoundly simple. So long story short, as I, continue to go on this journey, as I've been learning and evolving, you and I spending all this time together, I learned after about 18 months or so, people don't want to hear me, and I don't know how to explain this to people. So I just stopped saying it to them. So I said, you know what? I'll write a book. Like I'll just try to share it in a book. Even then, most of my closest friends and family, they would say, hey, sure, I'll read your book, but they don't really want to spend that much time because it's a long book. And like, do you really want to spend? Most people do not want to give somebody that kind of time to try to understand where they're coming from. They just don't. Like, it's more likely a stranger will give me that time than even my friends at close. My sister, my own fucking sister won't even like, give me that amount of time, right? Like, let alone like, just like expecting her to understand what I'm trying to do and how the trajectory that my life's on. So I'm like, okay, great. Well, that didn't work. Well, maybe I can, I just gave up at that point in time, right? I was like, I just gave up. Well, luckily, we found this format, and I just said, you know what, for me, I want to write this stuff down because I just want to remember the stuff myself. Then you were gracious enough to want to allow me to talk about it and then share your thoughts, and we could have a discussion around it. And slowly but surely, over time, we chiseled away this slab of marble, and we finally gotten to the point in time where I feel confident that I can say profoundly simple what this journey has always been about of the year of magical learning. And it took me all this time and all this amount of information. I still am not totally there yet, but at least I can see it and I can explain it to somebody. And it boils down to this line at the very bottom of focus on your values and bring them to life each day. That's it. Profoundly simple. I think anybody can understand that, but it took me an unfathomable amount of time and effort, my own thoughts, and it's going to continue to refine that because I think that's still too long. Anyway, this is the idea of something being made to stick. It needs to be profoundly simple because people have to be able to understand it, and you have to be able to explain exactly what you mean in a way that other people can quickly take it and move on from there. It's the only way to ever share something.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. For me, I kind of agree with some of this overall. I think having something simple, it's easier for other people to understand. But sometimes even something easy doesn't mean they can understand it. Right? The concept that I wholeheartedly agree with is the fact that you have to really understand and go through so much effort just to understand profoundly what it is you're trying to do, to even simplify, to even pen it, to even write it down. I think, and that to me, that is something that you and I have witnessed firsthand, with Clubney when we go through and trying to figure it out. Because when we were going through Clubney, we know what it feels like, but we can't tell you what it is from with using the words. And a lot of time you would ask me, hey, it's like this, and I say, maybe, right?
Not totally,
Because
yeah.
not totally.
Close.
And so it's not like, yeah, that's right. We don't have that, and eventually we chisel away the thing that is not it. Can be it, but not it. And so you chisel, just like the sculptor, chisel out the unwanted part, the parts that's not part of the masterpiece. You chip it away, keep chipping at it until something comes into your image. The image comes into your brains as this is a person's, an object, whatever it is you're trying to get the gunk away from, whether it's a diamond or some kind of core values, whatever that is that we're trying to see. And a lot of time we don't see that, right? Until you start to go through so much work, so much effort. And that is something when somebody say, what's the difference between profoundly simple and just simple.
Well,
What's the difference?
it's gotta mean something. Is wisdom.
Profoundly means that there is a lot of chiseling that you
Yes.
did in order to make it simple. Because you say, hey, I make this nice round marble ball, right?
Cool.
It's simple, it's
Right.
smooth,
It's
right?
nice. Yeah.
It's simple, but it doesn't get there. I mean, how do you have this round, beautiful marble ball? It doesn't exist, just on a rock somewhere. It doesn't sit there. You have
Right.
to chisel it. And so that's a lot of effort has been put into something that is not look like that into something like that. They say, oh, that's a marble. Or somebody took a giant trunk of a wood and then carved out an eagle or a beaver or whatever it is that you want. But no one can see it. But it took so much work until everybody sees it. But the thing is, a lot of times, this is what I'm saying is the universal thing is anything profoundly simple requires tremendous effort. That is,
Yes.
to me, universal. On the other hand, what I don't agree with is that when it's simple, people understands it. It's easier for people to understand, but it's not always something that everyone can understand, right? Because sometimes, like
I don't know, man. I mean, I think everybody should just do it. Like Nike's slogan, like
I agree with some of that sentiment of just do it, but I'm saying is there's certain things that people don't understand because maybe there is something that they have never been able to connect. Meaning, hey, let's say I tell you, hey, Chris, E equals MC squared. Do you know what?
I don't. That's not profoundly simple, to be honest with you. It's simple
from Einstein's perspective.
Right. Yes. From his perspective.
But the thing is, it is profoundly simple. But it doesn't mean that you don't understand it.
Well, then it's not simple enough, honestly.
I got three variable. Well, not even three. I got two variable.
Right.
Right. E is energy. Right. That's the result. You don't care about that. You're gonna come out. You just measure it. All right. MC squared. M is for mass. It's okay. How much something weight? How much volume is something? C is speed of light square. Well, how do you square the speed of light? And how do you put speed of light? How do you use the speed of light? Speed of light is not an object.
What is the speed of light?
The number.
But this is my
So
point.
how do you apply it? How do you apply that? Think about it.
Isn't profoundly simple. It was to Einstein and to people that intellectuals.
Exactly. That's what I meant, because the thing is, in the people in the physics community, they say, oh, yeah, what did I think about that? Right? It's like, those people understand, and it's like, so it's so simple. And then you bring it out into the non-physics people, like, okay, yeah, simple. I can remember it, but I don't know how to apply it. I don't know what it means. Like, okay, when you're talking about mass, you're talking about the volume, you're talking about the weight. What are we talking about?
This iPhone is profoundly simple. Like my 2-year-old can pick it up and can figure out how to use an iPhone. Like Steve Jobs and Apple figured out how to make something so simple and so easy.
No,
what?
To me, the thing is, your son is intelligent, because I have used iPhone and I can't figure out how to do some things. Most things I don't know how to use, even today.
On an iPhone? What do you not know how to use on an iPhone?
A lot of stuff.
Such as?
What do you people do on an iPhone? Like, hey, let's go change the setting. Let's go, whatever.
You need to change the setting.
I don't know how to close an application.
You just go like that.
Exactly.
Like it's profound. You want to bring it back?
Profoundly simple. Profoundly simple. Is it profoundly simple?
Yes.
Profoundly simple once you show it to me.
Right.
But I didn't understand it. That's my point. It's like not everybody will understand something profoundly simple because they are not part of it. Doesn't align with their core values. They would not be able to understand it. So
that is so easy to figure out because you will stumble upon it eventually. You will accidentally do these things.
No, I actually have to Google it.
What?
Yes.
That's wild.
I was going to throw it across the room.
I swear to God, when I get on my dad's Android, whenever he asks me, hey, Chris, like we're golfing or something, he's like, hey, can you get on my phone and check my, my app for my golf, yardage or whatever. I swear to you, A, I can't figure out how to get onto his stupid Android. And then B, whenever I'm on there, I'm like, I remember one time he asked me to make a phone call, and I was like, I don't know how to make a phone call on your phone. I was like, how do you
And
do?
that's proof my point, though, Chris. The thing is, there are certain things that is aligning with that person. That means that even the profoundly simple thing they are not aligned with, they would not understand it. And so my point of saying this is like, it's okay for you to not align and be able to understand something, because, and it's also okay for people not to understand you,
Yeah,
right? Because the thing is, my thing is, I'm saying is, I am not responsible for your happiness. I'm not responsible for your accuracy. If you call me, say, hey, true, call me false or whatever, I'm not gonna correct you.
Right.
You call me, hey, blue, I am not gonna correct you. It's not my job to make you understand, right?
Yeah, no,
And so
I
I'm saying, so I'm saying is,
like, it's not our job to make somebody understand anything. Like, I just think that for you to be able to share anything with somebody else,
but
is
the thing
the
is,
only way
once
you
you
can share it.
so what I'm trying to get at is, once you have choose your way and put all this effort into, and you look at it and say, hey, it is profoundly simple. I have done it. I think this is what people understand. And then you go in and go out there and you're going to start testing. Say, hey, this
You're
is
like, I don't get it.
company. This is that. Like, some people are going to get it. Some people will don't. But that should not deter you from saying, hey, I got to make it more simple, make it simpler, right? Because if somebody understands it, that means that the other person should understand as well. Because it's just that, don't discourage if not everybody understands it, because the thing is, you're not going to get it if you're not in that circle, like the iOS circle and the Android circle.
Right.
You inside the iOS circle, say, this is so simple, why can't this guy do? And I'm a programmer, okay? I'll program apps for Apple. I program apps for both Android and Apple. And Apple is the last thing I tested, because I can't use the fucking thing.
That's funny.
Right?
That is kind of funny, actually. Okay, so based off of what you just said, I would say this. If you gave me an hour with somebody 2 years ago, try to explain my purpose with Amelia and living for two, it would have taken me, guarantee you would have walked away from that hour-long conversation going, I get it. I get what Chris is trying to do. Today, I think I could do that now in about a minute,
Yes, so I think where my thought is going is that I understand what you say, like E equals MC squared. Okay, so simple, but I don't know what it means. So in the same thought, right? I take what clubbing is about, just some simple travel back in time to 1997, right? And I tell, hey, True, my younger True, company is about meaningful work, meaningful relationship. You focus on your value and you live it to sustain happiness. And you say, okay, great. I don't know, what does that mean? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the thing is, because that guy is not receptive, he doesn't desire this purpose or whatever. Like, okay, what is purpose? Is that a complex word? Right?
No,
And he
very
say,
much
well,
so. I mean,
I say,
so
what the hell are you talking about purpose? Right?
So
Well,
then-
how else can I say core values, purpose?
but even those are subjective. So to be fair,
Exactly, square, right? It's simple, profoundly simple, but it doesn't mean shit to the guy who has no interest in the core value or understand what purpose is in the context that this old guy, his future old guy, comes and tell him about.
So if I were to explain to you living for two right now, I would say, when I do what I love to do in this world, I get to feel my daughter's presence. And therefore, I get to still be, in some way, shape, or form, a father to her. And I feel like we can be able to carry on a relationship there within 10 seconds or less.
This is what I'm saying is there is two level of understanding. You understand and you understand.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they understand. Like, but they can understand what I just said, and they can go, oh, okay, I can at least intuit what you're trying to do. I don't know how you feel. I want to understand all the journey you've been on to be able to get to this point in time. But I can at least say, oh yeah, just do it. I can remember that. Living for two, or focus on your values. I understand what that tip of that iceberg means, sort of, right? Like, I don't understand what just do it means to Phil Knight and his original founding team.
Right. You can take just do it and you go back to Vietnam and I say, hey, just do it. And they look at me and say, okay, I know what that means, and let's say I translate it to Vietnamese and say, just do it, right? In Vietnamese, they say, okay.
Sure, I get it. I mean, I understand it.
So my point is that I don't think it does you any good if you don't understand it.
I disagree.
Hey, coach eats strategy for breakfast. Peter Drucker. Okay. What does that mean?
It means your people matter more than what you do in the direction you set.
No. Well, you understand it?
No, I know, but I'm saying you can at least take that.
Well, they understand
it however you want to.
They understand the literal meaning of it. It's like, hey, the tip of the iceberg. They can only see the tip of the iceberg, but they don't want to. Like I say, a beaver must dam.
Right.
Okay.
They don't understand
I don't want for trains. Right.
But they do understand that. Drew, if you said that's a profoundly simple statement. A beaver must dam. They're gonna go, oh, I get that. Beaver's got a dam. Like, I get kind of what you're trying to say, and you're like if they can't understand all of what goes into that.
So they understand, but I say,
but at least opens up a connection channel to you where they can go, oh,
right. I don't disagree with that. I do agree with the part where you say, it's profoundly simple, and when it's simple, that more people is more likely to get and have at least a starting point to ask the question before, at least not lost. Right,
they can at least connect.
Doesn't mean they can understand. And
point is, understand though, right? Like you can further take Beaver Must Dam, and you can start to they like, oh, I get that. Like, let's go deeper, and then you can start to show them different layers down. But you can't. They don't let you go from bottom up. They let you.
Right. I think what these is like. Hey, you have this iceberg of a complex
idea.
Thingamajig, right? I need you to pick out something that be a representative of that.
Yes.
Because it doesn't mean that, it's some small unit that best represent the whole unit, versus just anything. And I think that's where I'm at. Is some people may not get it, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can say, well, I have done what I can to make it as simple as I could to express what I think you may be able to connect with. You fail at doing it. Right. And so that, hey, I live my life, and my life is core values, and I need you to understand. And that to me is conflicting with what we're preaching. It's just, hey, you live for you, okay? But then you say, hey, I need to find something to make you understand. That means you are living for that person.
Not to make them understand, to communicate.
Right, but the thing is, to communicate is, to me, like I say,
open up a line of communication.
Exactly. So to me, if I communicate with you, and I have done the profound process of making it simple, and once I've done that, it is what it is. If you do understand it, great. If you don't understand it, right?
Do you remember the I can't hear your taps? When people would go, hey, tap out the song, like just like tap a song. People would say, what do you think the chances are that they're going to hear? Like Happy Birthday, right? If you went, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, you know what I mean? And then you're tapping it out. I don't know if you can hear me tapping, but if you did that, I would think that most people would go, I would think they've done this before, right? And they've done these experiments where they're like, oh yeah, they're definitely going to get happy birthday. I mean, who's not going to get happy birthday? And it was like, I think it was like 3% of the people got the song, right? So like, this is by
a random guess. I think 3% isn't significant enough to say, hey, this is right.
It's probably almost like one of the mentalist people when they're random guessing. They're looking at clues and they're trying to think like, okay, what would be the most common
I think it's random guess. There's no clue. There's no educated guess in here.
But that's the thing, is like, we can't hear your tapping, right? But when you do the work, if you want to share an idea with somebody, like, it needs to be able to take in your head what all that thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of knowledge and refining and conversations, and you need to be able to take something out of this head and extract it over to that person so they can hear your tapping. They don't need to understand how you made the song. They don't need to
Like that's what I'm
understand,
saying is, let's say you are the only way for you to communicate is tapping the rhythm of the song to somebody. And right now, as the research indicates, only 3%, and it's so insignificant that I think having a random guess would actually even surpass the 3%. So
Probably.
in this scenario, how do you simplify the tapping so that the other guy will understand?
Oh my God. You know what the you know what the next reflection is?
What?
You know what the next reflection is in the same book? Did you look?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. All right, we should probably stop talking about this. I mean, that's too funny. I was like, have we talked about this actually? And I was like, I know it was like from a book kind of like Made to Stick, like that's too fucking funny. All right. Well, hey, it was made to stick, like that's why it stuck in my head, Yeah. So I think we should probably put a pin on the tapping because like that's tomorrow. We'll
Sneak
come
peek
back to
for
that.
tomorrow.
We'll come back to that one. I think that is at the end of the day extracting. Okay,
But my point is that if you are a musician, right, you probably gonna get it more than the people who aren't musicians. And that's my point is that you need to share the ideas with the people who is able to receive it, who are receptive of what you're saying. So similarly, the group that you want to be in is the one that understands.
Right.
Once you have gone through the perfection, the profoundly simplifying it, and you sharing it, more likely than not, the majority of the people outside of the your core values tribe won't get it. They won't get it.
Right.
And that is fine because don't try to please and be. But I'm saying is once you simplify it enough, the people inside of that circle, inside that tribe will get it. Because you think about if you have done if you are a musician, right? And I'm not a musician and I'm more like tone deaf than anyone. Probably gonna have better, I guess, probability of guessing the tap than just random people.
Probably.
And that's my point is that you want to share the ideas, the people inside of that circle, and if they get it, right, this is where your sweet spot's gonna be.
Right.
Versus trying to say, hey, I need to go talk to somebody, and I say something and they didn't ask. Because if I say beaver must dam, most people won't understand it, but some will. And those people have some kind of a desire in along that kind of a thread. So they're going to ask and explain more. This is when you start to spend the time to connect with that person versus trying to make anyone understand what you're trying to say. And to me, that's a waste of time because you're not responsible for their understanding. If they understand it, they understand it.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, going back to the Nike Just Do It, right? Like I got a Nike hat on, right? Like I understood the profoundly simple message they were putting out there when I was a kid. And I wanted to go deeper with it. So I went down that rabbit hole. And I love Nike as a brand, and I've even read Phil Knight's book and I really enjoyed it. The thing is, you're spot on, but not everybody understands what Nike's brand is all about. And they don't really care. They shouldn't care. Like if you don't get it, then you don't get it. That's fine. You don't need to worry.
Right. The people who are not athlete, they aren't gonna understand just do it.
Right.
The people who are in the performance, in the athletic, hey, I need to start somewhere. I need to start at wherever I am, right? They get it.
Right.
So there is the tribe of alignment, right? The tribe that aligns with who you are, who you say, your core values, they will get it.
Right.
Versus,
and they'll want to go deeper, and that profoundly simple.
And they are going to. So you give them something, a representations of this iceberg, and they're going to say, "Well, I see the information and understand just enough to ask the next question."
Right.
If a person doesn't understand at all, they won't ask the next question. Then they are not aligning. They don't have the value that aligns with what you are aligning to. So don't have to waste time with that. That's my point is, when you say something is profoundly simple, everybody's gonna get it. Because if you go on take that mental, I guess, the rule that you say, hey, everybody gonna understand it. You are going to, if somebody doesn't understand, you're gonna try so much more in a futile effort to get them to understand. And I think that's a waste of your time. That goes to your core value, which is you live for yourself, not for anyone else. If you happen to understand and you want to ask the questions, that creates a connection. Then I live for myself still because I'm getting a connection.
I totally agree. I think you just actually made me refine the message, and this message even down further. It's not focus on your values and bring them to life. It's just bring your values to life. That's really it.
Mm-hmm. Let your core value be expressed. This is what we're saying, and you gotta be who you gotta be. It's not who you want to be.
Right.
I can never be Michael Jordan. It's just not possible.
Well, it's not possible because you have a different personality and different character.
Exactly.
You're not a beaver.
I would never be. I'm
sorry. He's not a beaver. You're a beaver.
Exactly. Right. So I have to be who I have to be.
Right. I mean, who I
was created. Right.
Yeah.
I was created as a beaver. I cannot pretend that if I was born a duck, I cannot go to eagle school and say, hey, I'm an eagle.
Right.
Duck cannot go to eagle school.
I mean, I'm watching Luca every single day grow up and learn and grow, and his personality and his character is coming out every single day. I don't know where that comes from. I didn't teach him that.
To me, it's natural. The only thing that I think in this world that is not natural is forcing somebody into a mold. Like, hey, Luca, you shall be a doctor, and then you shall be a musician, and go practice. Right? I mean, you look at some of the cultures in the Asian country is they, and some here too. I mean, they force their kids to, like Tiger Woods, right?
Andre
force a
kid.
kid.
We talked about it. Yeah.
Force a kid to do certain thing, right?
Right.
But it not allowed to be expressive of who they are, then that bothers inside, and that becomes a miserable life. Regardless how much money they make, it's still a miserable life for them because that's not what they couldn't express what they need to express. If you're a human being and they say, hey, you cannot breathe air, right? It just feels miserable, right? You're not a tree.
Right.
So, you have to get to do the things you have. You cannot say, hey, I want to be a tree now. Right? I want to be a fungus.
Simple.
Super stupid.
Right.
But the point is that a species has a basic needs, and that need to be met. If you don't have that, then it's going to be miserable. You're not a robot, so you have to eat.
Right.
You have to breathe air in a certain quantity, in a certain ratio. You have to have water, right? Let's say there's no water. Let's say all the water for some reason evaporate, right? We can't survive. Not even for a week. We can't do it. And so because, like I say, I can't say, well, like I say, I'm making this a stupid example, but I can say, hey, today I decided to be a tree. Can I do that?
No.
That's what I wanted. So you cannot be what you want. You have to be who you are. If I'm a human, I have to be a human. I cannot become a tree.
Right.
And to me, that's what I'm saying is, yes, there are more nuances when you are a person, but to make it stupidly simple, you cannot become a tree if you're a human being. Because I need air. If I tell Luca or tell my daughters, hey, you gotta be this person, you gotta be this accountant. I need an accountant.
Unless you're forced to adapt and to throw. So if somebody said you had to start breathing CO2 and you only breathe in oxygen, and you were like, no, I don't want to do that. Well, if somebody's like, well, that's your only option now. I mean, that's it. That's all you got to do, and then you'll figure that out.
We have adaptability, but you can adapt to survive. Yes, because we are human beings. We have a great trait, which is adaptability. We can adapt. But imagine if the Earth, for whatever reason, all the oxygen is toxic. We're gonna have to figure out how to breathe a mask. Even in that scenario, you can survive, but it's a miserable life. It's like you live in a smog, for example, right? Yep. You live in a world that's just smog all over. Right. Are you going to be thriving? No, you're basically not dying. So in a world where there is those possibilities, why are we putting a gun to our own heads and make ourselves do things and put ourselves into a mold of, hey, be this person? Because you grow up, you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. You cannot be, hey, I want to be a musician, a horticulturist. And especially in Asian country. I mean, you understand, like, the Asian people that watch this will understand what I'm saying is, in America, you have more encouragement to be more yourself. But in the Asian country, the way the culture is you are put into a mold. Say, hey, we want you to be this. And especially, like, you only have three choices. Because if you tell your mom, your dad, hey, I want to be a musician, you disappoint them. You dishonor the family, right? I say, hey, you want to go sing? Well, go study engineering and sing on the side. You want to sing on the side. You cannot go, hey, I'm going to go to the Juilliard Music of Arts or whatever. You cannot do that.
Right.
And, hey, mom and dad, I want to be a cook. You can't do that, right? That's what I'm saying. It may be hard for you as an American, having grown up in American culture, to understand that. But in Asian country, you don't have only three choices that people say. If you have the capacity to do so, it's a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer.
I mean, it makes sense.
That's only three choices.
Right. I mean, it makes sense if you want to, but it doesn't make sense because you're denying your humanity. All right.
Waiting.
So I can't wait to go see the end of this thing. All right. So the question we can leave everybody with here at the end is, what is your profoundly simple answer to your beautiful question? So that's what your goal should be, right? We have beautiful questions. Find out what your profoundly simple answer is that you can share with other people to open up that line of communication. And if they want to accept it, then they can accept it. And if they don't, then that's fine. But, like, at least you've put an iceberg out there for somebody to see, understand that that's an iceberg. And, like, I'm either going to want to go engage with that or not, but at least it's out there and people can understand, right? That takes a lot of work.
To make something profoundly simple, mainly it's for you. It's not for other people.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, you're never doing it for somebody else. You find the answer to your beautiful question because you want to find the answer to your beautiful question.
Yes.
And then you can share that with other people.
It's a side
Yes.
product of finding the answer to your beautiful question.
Agreed. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining, and we will see you tomorrow for the taps. All right. Have a good night.
Good night, bud.